Talking, of course, about Kevin McCarthy's ouster as House Speaker at the hands of Matt Gaetz, 7 other Republicans, and a whole bunch of Democrats. One thing, too, it is worth noting, McCarthy said before this all went down that he would not deal with Democrats. In other words, exchange some spending goodies with Democrats in order to get their votes to support him for Speaker, to save his speakership. So on the way out, he acted rather admirably, I would argue, perhaps surprisingly so to many, but he wasn't willing to trade the House Republican caucus's position for his personal protection as Speaker, and that says something about him. I think there just was I think just in some quarters there's a complete lack of proportion in terms of expectation, both for the post in this environment, slim majority, 1/2 of the government, as well as the man himself. McCarthy is not without talent. I don't think he's a great orator, and I don't think he's a philosophical leader, but he did show a lot more backbone than many thought he would, myself included, when he was elevated earlier this year, I believe. Not to mention, he raises a lot of money.
Yep.
And I know that's, an ugly business. Oh, how dare anybody talk about money? Well, money is what it takes to run these campaigns. And by the way, the other side has no qualms about it, and they will be fully funded.
And they're doing it right now.
So if you want to win elections, it's not the only thing, but it is something. And having somebody who's talented at doing that for the benefit of the larger Republican candidate universe is not nothing.
Well, speaking of money, McCarthy yesterday talked about Matt Gaetz and said he's been planning to do this since the second he took the speakership.
You know, it was personal. It had nothing to do about spending. It had nothing to do about everything he accused somebody of he was doing. It all was about getting attention from you. I mean, we're getting email fundraisers from him as he's doing it. Join in quickly. That's not governing. That's not becoming of a member of Congress. And regardless of what you think, I've seen the text. It was all about his ethics. But that's all right.
As we mentioned previously. Yeah. But I mean, the point is, I really don't want to get into like the tit for tat name calling between like the McCarthy side and the Gaetz side. I just think that's so silly. Think about this more globally. Not just 96% of the caucus, majority of the Freedom Caucus, conservatives who are leading the fight against the administration and all of the abusers in this administration, Mayorkas and Garland and Ray, for that matter. I mean, this is what Jim Jordan said. Is Jim Jordan some sort of sellout who's a rhino who doesn't want to cut spending and doesn't want to take the fight to the other side? I don't think so. Did you listen to what he said on the House floor in defense of McCarthy?
January 3rd, we said the 118th Congress is about 3 things. Pass the bills that need passed, do the oversight work that needs to be done, and stop the inevitable omnibus that comes from the United States Senate right before the holidays. Kevin McCarthy has been rock solid on all 3. We have passed the bills we told the American people we would pass. 87,000 IRS agents, that bill passed. Parents' Bill of Rights, that bill passed. Energy legislation passed. Border security, immigration enforcement legislation, the strongest bill ever to pass the Congress, passed earlier this year. We have done what we told them we were going to do. We can't help it the Senate won't take up those good common sense bills. They'll have to answer to the American people come Election Day. Oversight. We have done the oversight that we're supposed to do. Because of our oversight, we know that parents were targeted by the Department of Justice. Because of our oversight, we know that 51 former intel officials misled the country weeks before the most important election we have. And because of our oversight, the Disinformation Governance Board at the Department of Homeland Security is gone. Because of our oversight, the memo attacking pro-life Catholics has been rescinded. Because of our oversight, unannounced visits to Americans' home by the Internal Revenue Service has stopped. That happened under Speaker McCarthy. And on the third one, on this side of it, we know there's a big old ugly bill coming at the end of the year, all kinds of spending, all kinds of garbage in it. We're still in that fight. Frankly, to Matt's point, we don't know how that one's going to shake out. But we do know this. We do know this. On Saturday, we didn't take the Senate's bill. They tried to send over and shove it down our throats on Saturday. We didn't take that bill. And it was a tough position he was in. There were 5 options on the table last week. Option 1 was to send a long-term CR over there that would have leveraged the 1% cut, something a bunch of us voted for. Both parties couldn't get the votes for that one. Second option was to focus on the one issue the country now is completely focused on, the border issue. We couldn't get the votes for that one either. But when the Senate tried to send us that bill, he said no to it. I think the Speaker has kept his word. I know my colleagues and friends are saying different. I think he has kept his word on those 3 things that we talked about on January 3rd, and frankly, that entire week. He has kept his word. I think we should keep him as Speaker. I yield back.
Now we're pleased to be joined by Congressman Darin LaHood, Republican from Peoria, 16th District. Darin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan and Amy. Great to be on with you.
Well, I know you and your caucus mates in Illinois here, Mary Miller and Mike Bost, all voted to keep Kevin McCarthy as well. What was your calculation in that decision?
Well, I think Kevin deserved a chance to continue to be Speaker. While not perfect, he's done a fairly good job over the last 9 months. Remember, Dan, this is a math problem. You know, we're 1/3 of the government. We're facing the Biden administration in the White House. We're facing Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans. So it's 1 versus 3. That's number one. Number two, we only have a 4-seat majority. And you hit on this at the beginning. The expectations were so high for what people wanted. Kevin did a decent job with the hand he was dealt with. And what was frustrating about yesterday is it was like this open family fight in front of everybody. It was like a divorce that everybody watched on pay-per-view on the House floor, which was frustrating and disappointing. And then process-wise, to think that 8 people could side with 210 Democrats to throw out our Speaker of the House, that part was extremely frustrating to me also. And so that's why I supported Kevin. I think he has, while not perfect, has done a decent job. And I think, frankly, I don't think we're going to do much better moving forward. So it was like negotiating with the Taliban with these 8 people. They had grievances and personal vendettas against Kevin, and I think that's what a lot of it was.
Did Matt Gaetz try and get you on board with his group?
No, Matt Gaetz is all about Matt Gaetz. It's all about clicks. It's all about likes. It's all about raising money. It's all about trying to run for governor in 2026. To me, Matt has been on the same side of every different issue. I mean, he's all about Matt Gaetz.
What about some of the others that joined with him? I mean, I know a lot of people were raising questions about Nancy Mace from South Carolina, who, you know, isn't always in lockstep with the conservative position on things. Ken Buck, Tim Burchett from Tennessee. What about some of these others? Is this a Gaetz caucus, or do they have their own personal grievances, or do they just feel like the Republicans could do better for Speaker? What was that dynamic?
Well, I don't want to get into the personal relationships and why people made their decision, but I think it was a small group. I think Nancy Mace, again, she's all about herself. She's very narcissistic. You know, she has been supportive of McCarthy and then against McCarthy. She's hated Matt Gaetz, but it was about her getting attention more than anything else. Tim Burchett, I like an awful lot. Ken Buck is a very solid conservative, smart, conscientious guy. I think that was a conscious decision for him to make. And listen, Matt Rosendale's running for Senate in Montana. That's why he made the decision he did. So I think you can go to these individual members and find reasons to do that. But the bottom line, Dan and Amy, is it's just extremely frustrating that literally you could have 8 people side with 210 Democrats and take down the Speaker. And because of our rules, we need to change the motion to vacate rule and make it a majority of House members can take down a Speaker, not one person, because literally you have a gun at the head of the Speaker on every decision that's made. If you don't do what they say, they're going to take you down.
Yeah, and the just one of the conspiracy theories afoot, I'm sure you've heard, is that the Matt Gaetz in consultation with the MAGA world, President Trump. This was a President Trump play, or he had some influence, or he gave his assent. It doesn't seem like that, especially with like a Ken Buck joining the group, because Ken Buck is obviously no Trump loyalist.
That's exactly right, Dan. And remember, you had strong conservatives like Newt Gingrich supporting McCarthy, Mark Levin, Jim Jordan. If Matt Gaetz had the MAGA world on him, Trump didn't get active in it. There was crickets. Trump was not supportive of what Matt Gaetz was doing. So again, I think it was a personal vendetta by Matt. Matt wants to run for governor in Florida. It's about that also. Again, I don't think his motives were as pure as he'd like people to think.
So the one time, I mean, Republicans are up in every metric, and now we have this infighting. I think it's a huge black eye for the GOP. So what is next, and who is going to be your next Speaker of the House?
Well, Amy, you're exactly right. It's a disaster. Right when we got Biden on literally the brink here, we have an unmitigated disaster at the border. We have a two-tiered system at DOJ. We have crushing inflation that's killing the economy. We ought to be focused and being on the offensive. And really, it was a great day for House Democrats yesterday. Yep. And so we have to regroup. We have to pick up the pieces. I will tell you this, Amy, there is a lot of hard feelings in our conference right now. People feel like, they were taken advantage of, they were duped. And so I don't know how you heal those wounds, but we've already seen today, I've talked to our majority leader, Steve Scalise. He's interested in stepping up to run. There's talk about Jim Jordan interested in running for speaker, Tom Emmer, who's our majority whip right now. So, we're in uncharted territory, Amy. We've never had this situation before. But we have some really strong candidates. We got a good bench, and we got to figure out how we do that. We come back. Actually, I wish we would have stayed and dealt with this today and tomorrow and the next day. But we come back next Tuesday. We'll have elections, and then hopefully we elect a new speaker on Wednesday.
Well, if you did get a Scalise or Jordan, that would obviate a lot of the acrimony, and frankly, you're going to have Matt Gaetz and others declare that they have been vindicated, because in their mind, in the minds of a lot of people, that say, well, we've got a more conservative speaker now, and now we can move forward. Although I don't know that you'll get more production from even a Jordan or a Scalise than you got from McCarthy. But I mean, that would, one of the concerns is, what you said at the outset. Are you going to get somebody that's more conservative and skilled at Kevin McCarthy? Maybe not, but maybe as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, people have their talents. They react differently when they get into these type of leadership positions. But again, I go back to the situation. In 43 days, the government's going to shut down. We're back in the exact same situation. People, you asked Matt Gaetz what he wanted, for the government not to shut down. Well, they want the border immediately closed. They want Jack Smith defunded. They want Biden impeached, and they want spending cut across the board, 10%. If you don't get that, the government should shut down. I mean, so these expectations are not going to go away in terms of what people want. And it's such a small percentage of the budget we're trying to cut, but it's really about appropriations and cutting. But we're going to be dealing with Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans, and the Biden White House in 41 days.
Well, the other thing this runs interference for is Jamal Bowman and his 3-alarm fraud. The only thing on fire, Jamal Bowman's pants. And now we find that there was memos circulating that in order to run damage control for Jamal Bowman, Democrats are to run around pointing to Republican Nazis and calling certain members of Congress Republican Nazis, the Nazi caucus, to get focus on Republicans and not on Jamal Bowman's law-breaking and lying.
No doubt about it, Dan. All of the attention is taken off him. It's all on us. It's all about the disaster yesterday. Instead, we should be focused 100% on going after him, making sure that he's either expelled or prosecuted appropriately for his actions that he took. But all these other things that, again, people are focused on and what the country wants us to focus on, instead we're fighting within ourselves, and it's like a big family fight or like a divorce that you're watching on pay-per-view, and that's not what we need right now. So, listen, I'm an optimistic person. I've lost some of my optimism after yesterday. I think that can be regained, and this is when people have to step up at a leadership role and show that we can bring back our Republican Party. So we'll see.
And you expect this to play out in the next week or so?
Yeah, they just our schedule has been put out there, so members are going to leave today and tomorrow, come back. We'll have leadership elections. So whoever wants to announce will start their campaign. They'll be calling members. I've already started getting calls from members that are interested in running. And of course, what happens when you have Scalise, if he decides to move up, you're going to have an open majority leader seat. And so you'll have potentially a couple seats that'll be available, but people are going to have to run a campaign and tell our caucus what they're going to do to bring us back together. And I think that'll be important.
So did Scalise obviously already reach out to you?
Yes.
Okay.
He is Representative Darin LaHood, Congressman from the 16th in Illinois here, the Peoria, larger Peoria area. Darin, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
Have a great day, Dan and Amy. Thanks.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter.